That's Agnesian though, ain't it? Well, then I'll go with 25 bucks. I'm not really this color. I'm pale normally, but not like this. I don't mind trying it again. Maybe when I wake up, it's a little thicker. Yeah. I got suckered into one of those. Forgot about that. Well, I got a good grade in obeying God and the Bible. Treat my slaves well. I think so. I think I'll go orangey. Chocolate's not bad. You want something sweet, you get to liking it. I like blue. No, somebody else sometimes liked them. Tom has to be in more trouble than anybody. Affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm. I affirm the request. Affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, to the power of an infinite number of infinities. I don't know. Second. I think I'm second. Bible says you're it. Why do Satanists push this equality thing? Satanists push me believing I'm equal to God, but I'm not. I'm not God, and I'm not equal to God, except that we're all equal. We're all important. The children of God are. But I don't have his gifts or probably his knowledge. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Satanists really push this equality thing. I was for equal pay for equal work for women. And I thought the Equal Rights Amendment was good. What I understood about it. But I'm not a feminist or... I'm very glad I got to stay home with my child and not work. I'm very glad. I'd experienced an unusual amount of danger as a child, and I knew that it was occurred in some daycares. And I didn't want my child in daycare. I took a chance once and it didn't work out. They took him to level 1 weird. They process these kids through levels of weirdness and see who accepts it and who reacts strongly and who's passive. My son came home from daycare every day, grumpy, nasty, very difficult to deal with. And I took him to the doctor to see if he had an ear infection. A doctor recommended by the daycare lady. And he was so rude and insulting and horrible that I consulted a lawyer about suing him. He was complimentary to the jarhead child and women torturer, but very disdainful of me, disrespectful and disdainful of me. His name was Dr. Hannah, Hannah. I think he was a family doctor in Stanton, Virginia. Staunton, Virginia. I don't remember his first name. When I looked for a lawyer, I looked for a female who didn't have, 100 last names in common with everybody else in the book. Because they intermarry in Stanton and, they're retards and stuff. And so I picked my lawyer that way, and she did some research and said that her firm had a conflict of interest. Her firm had done some work for him, probably in the interim from when I consulted with her to when she told me. But those Southerners protect each other. They're vicious. If you're from the South, you got no chance with me. Below the Mason-Dixon line. Well, I would never trust you with a child. Probably not even your own. I was preparing to call social services on a woman in the Querus Mobile Home Park. She got wind of it, and she changed her whole lifestyle and the lifestyle of her children before I could. But her name was Janet. And she'd drink beer and smoke cigarettes while she fed her kids Kool-Aid or generic Kool-Aid. No milk, no nothing. Their teeth were all rotten, they were poorly nourished. I don't condemn people for smoking cigarettes, but if you've got children, you gotta buy milk first. So, even I would do that, and I'm a desperate smoker. I could do both. We'll give him back in a real way then. Mm-mm. Sanford Jacobson was a psychiatrist I chose after I met him doing an intake for Fellowship House, which is, it's like, it's like the Friendship Corner, but they arrange for housing for you and skills, work skills. So, um, he once told me I was not his equal. And I was offended because I know he meant because I didn't have a medical degree or a psychiatric certificate or whatever. But that's not true, I'm a person. I'm anybody's equal. And everybody who is not an infant torturer and a Satanist is anybody's equal. You may have different gifts. And he may have had the opportunity to go to medical school. I didn't. But he told me, Laura, you are not my equal. But that's not true. You don't become superior to someone by attending years of schooling. You don't. But I would stay away from Friendship Corner and NAMI.org. Department of Community Programs, the therapists and psychiatrists too. Because they are like hillbillies. They're bums and hillbillies. They're like the scum of the earth. The real scum of the earth. Oh. Most of them are very fat. And it shows a lack of character to be very fat. It means you're a gluttonous pig. And most of them are retarded, which isn't a bad thing. But the government uses retarded people to give them drugs and torture to be extremely aggressive towards infants and children. And that's just how the government planned to prevent UFOs from coming to the earth. Hmm. How do I do that? Oh, cool. God is magic, and it's real magic, too. It's real magic. If a group of Satanists sends a lot, concentrates, kills a lot of children, and sends hate your way, you can sometimes feel it. Sometimes you can't, though, because they probably do these rituals, well, toward the end times, probably every night of the week. They've killed everything small, innocent, and vulnerable they can get their hands on. Tortured at first, of course, to make it, well, they were trying to end heaven. And the universe, the physical universe, including the physical people that they knew were out there, because they questioned and drug little children to talk to angels and stuff. And they learn about the universe as much as they can that way. When children get a little older, they don't answer. Let's see, what was he at Duke? A professor at Duke. The father of somebody. Well, when I was a child, I felt that I had friends at Duke University. And that's where I was questioned or talking to angels. Donna tortured the fuck out of me, but I was still able to talk to angels at about 3 years old. Kathy Lowe just said something about herself. She's like Tom or like Dino. She's not having a moment. She may be taking lessons from Jennifer Grey on how to be rude and have standing. I don't know about Courtney Love. I don't know. I don't know if she's in the background or I thwacked her a good one and she got knocked out for the count. I don't know. Kurt Cobain was viciously murdered and dismembered before being buried, so he's probably a good guy. Time. Oh, I didn't use it up. I didn't put my DMSO in yet. In my opinion, DMSO itself tastes terrible, even diluted to 50-50. So I just add like 10 drops to a 10-ounce glass of colloidal silver. It's just on the verge of being tasteable, but not quite. I stir it, because I notice it tastes better when I stir it. I don't know if The DMSO sinks or rises, but it's better if I stir it. I might start adding 7 or 8. Because when you don't taste it, you can drink a lot. Well, earlier God said he'd have me taking a lot more, but I can't really. You know. I don't take it at all if it tastes terrible. Mm-hmm. 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 You know, God was a spirit who pretty much entered my head one day and maybe my spine a little, and it was just a very pleasant, very gentle, feeling. I'd never had that happen before, but I knew it was good. It wasn't bad or anything. And, actually, I don't even know. I think it was after. I'd applied for a job at Walden Books, and we had an interview. And I think it was after that he entered my spirit. I know that my son and I were moving. Richard Hanning Jr. was in Kentucky. Wait a minute. Right, because my first day of work, I told him I couldn't start working until after Labor Day because I had to help someone move. And he looked a little funny. It's like he paused, looked a little funny. Like, why would you help someone move? I mean, and Richard and I did. When we got to Kentucky with U-Haul, container you drag behind your vehicle. He and I unloaded everything. Our son Rich was a big guy and he was strong, but he was so relieved to be around his dad and me at the same time, who he thought was his dad, that he just went to sleep. He just took a nap in the spare bedroom or whatever. So I guess to Paul it was odd that I would help someone move, physically carry things. But it wasn't odd to me. I was used to doing that sort of thing pretty much. Um, so it was after our interview, right? I don't know, there was maybe 10 days between the interview and me starting work. So that was in August of 2003. And then it was toward the end of August when I let him know the day I went, the day I got hired and went in for training, I guess. Because I don't think I knew when we were going to move Richard Hanning Jr. at that time, but I let him know I can't. So I was in training, paid training maybe. Anyway, I let him know that I can't start the job actually till after Labor Day because I was helping someone move that weekend. And then I guess Richard Hanning Jr. was in Kentucky at that time, living in a hotel maybe? I don't know. But I was cleaning the little apartment Richard and I rented, and I really had a good time. It was nice to be without Richard Hanning Jr. It was a nice old house, with wood, painted wood. It was an odd little apartment in an old house. And I just had a good time. I played Simon and Garfunkel and cleaned everything. I even vacuumed out the windowsills, like lifted up the windows and vacuumed out. 'Cause that had, never been done. And I needed to get sun on my back. I just knew I needed to get sun on my back, on my spine. So I figured out, where to go. I went to Lakeside Park, and I found a spot in the grass that had some sun between some trees. And the spirit came to me. And it was like, it was very pleasant. I mean, it was just very pleasant. I was a little happy. And I think it was that day that this old man, this dirty old man, may have been the next time I went to get sun on my back. This dirty old man came and ruined it for me. He kept talking to me and he was kind of lecherous and everything. I had on a bathing suit, a one piece with a open back, and shorts, I think, and I was laying on a blanket. I was modest. But I just, enjoyed the company of the spirit, the presence of the spirit. And it was a few weeks before, after I got to know my boss a little bit, because I didn't have a chance to interact with him much, that I realized it was him. And then, I don't know how much longer later, I realized he's God. I just guess I recognized him by the feeling I had, with him in my spirit and being around him too. I mean, there was one time I just said, all I want is to be within 6 feet of that piece, that man, that I want to be in a 6-foot radius of him, because he had such peace about him. And much later I learned that that's why they have a 6-foot rule. The powers that be on Earth. The 6-foot, the COVID-19, 6 feet separation is because I wanted to be within 6 feet of him. Just find a way to live life within 6 feet of him. So, it was later after I had to leave the job because I got sick that I realized that was the great Indian spirit I had seen in 1985, who visited me and told me how to cut the mesh out of my chest. And my right lung started getting oxygen, and I had to take it easy some days because I was getting more oxygen. And it was Paul. He was a great Indian spirit with a beautiful headdress, but it was him. That was after I got home from being sick. I'd worked at Walden Books from September to the following March. And when I was home, I knew he was God for quite a while by that point. I loved him very much. But I didn't realize he was the person I'd seen in that vision of the great Indian spirit. And another vision, but I don't know. I don't know about that one. But I'd always favored men who had dark hair and blue eyes. It was just always something I really liked. You know, and he had that. So, I knew I was the Holy Spirit of God since I was 21. Things were happening around me that were so strange, and it was just a terrible time. So I grabbed the Bible that was sitting on a pedestal on the television, and I started reading it. And thankfully it was a very good Bible. It was a good translation. It gave translations Greek and Hebrew, I think. I like the Old Testament and Paul, the Apostle Paul. They were my favorites. The other apostles were pretty much the same thing. You know, Jesus was good, and he talked, and he died on the cross, and all. Like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and whoever else there is. They pretty much told the same tale. There wasn't much detail. I paid attention to what Jesus said, what they quoted as Jesus. I was uncomfortable with eat my body and drink my blood. I never did understand what that meant. And then as time went on, as I got older, I realized Jesus is not a fucking cannibal. Eat my body and drink my blood. Especially when I learned about Satanism and all the shit they do. They drink blood. They make candles out of infant baby fat. That's probably why they feed babies. So they can get fat on them to make candles with. That's probably the only reason. God, I wonder. It's disgusting. Anyway, you know, so things like that in the Bible, if it didn't sound right or feel right in my heart, then I didn't attribute it to God. But I love the Old Testament especially. I would probably love the New Testament if there wasn't so much about it that's suppressed. Sitting in the basement of the Vatican. Mm-hmm. But I realized I was the Holy Spirit of God when I was reading the Old Testament, and I turned to the chapter on Lamentations. Lamentations. It said, it starts out, oh, how lonely she sits, the city once thronged with people, as if suddenly widowed. And I knew that was me. So I was the city of Zion. So, when the Bible talks about Zion and the city of Zion, they're talking about me. But I knew that. I mean, I was desolate. I was really desolate. I didn't think Dino was God, but he was my highest love concept to that point in my life. I assumed we were going to spend our lives together. I mean, At one point, we pretty much lived together. We made love all the time. And I just assumed it was mutual. Why wouldn't I? So, you know, he gave mixed messages. He was emotionally cold and distant, and those weren't the signals he gave the first 6 months. And it was just, my heart was breaking. I loved him so much. His neighbor Dennis said he thought maybe we'd been brother and sister in another life. And I hadn't read the Song of Songs by then, or known about the twin souls or anything like that. I had told Dino once, if I had been an animal in another life, I had been a deer. And there's, you know, fawns and does and stuff like that in the Song of Songs, and probably elsewhere in the Bible. So that was a significant moment for Satanists, because Dino was a Satanist. When I wasn't with him, he was torturing infants and children. God tells me I've never actually been on Earth. That Satanists have never seen me, and that I've never seen them. I don't know what they look like. They don't know what I look like or sound like. So, what Satanists have done to me has been by intention, but it's very real to a person to have those things done. And they're using that as an excuse. You weren't really hurt. It was only by intention pain and all that. P-A-N-E. So that's what I tell them. Well, God only has bad intentions toward you, so whatever you're experiencing, don't worry about it, you know. They're not experiencing nearly enough pain for me. They're here, they dance around, they jump, they laugh, they mock. What you call them? If you're a child of God on the earth, or if you've been informed that you've been having a facsimile experience, which is actually intentions, then you're experiencing what I'm experiencing. I just don't want to say that. No, he needs to listen to me. You listen to me. I got all my I's dotted and all my T's crossed. The Bible says she, meaning me, tells him what is pleasing in God's eyes. He doesn't listen all that well. Because I know my limits. And if he pushes me past my limits, you know, it's not good. I know my limits. I know what I can withstand and be stable or okay. Please protect me, God. From the personalities and vibes around here, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm to the power of an infinite number of infinities. They demand so much attention. It's Harry, which was my father paradigm, Donna, which was my mother paradigm, my sibling paradigms, some, most, or all of my former boyfriend paradigms, all my friend paradigms, and I believe that's true. Mary Margaret McIntyre, Lisa Nicholson, Wendy Duda, Debbie Griffin. She was more of an acquaintance paradigm. Never got close to her. She was kind of odd. At first I thought it was funny, but I don't know. We stopped being friends. I don't even know why. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But my understanding is that God has not allowed me to have any lovers that haven't been Him. I didn't know He's the one that broke my heart and ripped my veil. It wasn't Dino. My experience was it was Dino. But God let me know a couple years ago. About a year ago. Shit, what a long year. About a year ago that it was Him. He's the one that broke my heart and ripped my veil, and I was in the middle of crying my eyes out at the moment, being forced to remember how I felt when Dino broke my heart. And, that's all you can do is cry your eyes out. And then he said it was him, and I was on the couch crying and stuff, and I lifted my head up because he was in the kitchen by the window. I couldn't see him, but he was speaking to me from there, and I said to him, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me it was you, for Christ's sakes? Why didn't you tell me? I won't say I've been mourning over Dino all these years, because it's not quite true. I went on with my life and everything. But I have not been able to remember the good times or the bad times with Dino. I haven't wanted to remember them. They were too intense. So, I had an injury. It was like in my diaphragm area. It was like, I held it all right here. It never budged. The memories, I never could heal. I couldn't cry enough or get enough therapy or even read the Bible enough, for that. It just sat there. And I did have therapy over the years, and I told Joanna Scholl, it just doesn't heal. It doesn't move. It's Donna, Harry, Dino, all at once. The three most significant people in my life. And the trauma was too sudden, too severe, and just too horrible. So, not funny. So, it was just an injury that wouldn't heal. I had to witness Paul, who is my God concept, perform a sexual act on a woman in the astral plane, but it was very clear, I saw it very clearly, that gave me a severe injury here. But I understood almost immediately, not without help. So our angels and people who help, that he was re-injuring an injury in order to bring healing. I understood that, and I have understood that. I don't know what he did to rip my veil in the first place. I don't want to know. I never want to know. But I have understood that he was re-injuring an injury. I guess there are times you have to do a surgery and go back in or something. I don't know. I don't know the paradigm, and it's all ass backwards. I can learn through kindness, time, napping, dreaming. I don't need this to heal. I don't think I do. I would rather just be a 3D person on Earth and die at age 80 than go through this to heal and be some wonderful light being. But I don't believe I chose to come here to Earth, aka I don't believe I chose to stay here. I tried to kill myself a few times. We'll clear it up then. I've had self-injury and suicidal feelings during this process. But only one, well, it wasn't even a real attempt. I don't think I had a knife or anything in my hand. And that was when the angel Uriel was with me for a long time, like weeks, maybe months. And he said he had to go, and he hadn't prepared me for that. And I was like, no, you're all I got, don't go. But he said he had to, and I felt suicidal then. Sometime later I understood, I may have to go through suicidal feelings to be deprogrammed from suicide programming, but I don't want to think about that. I like to think there are alternative ways of healing other than trauma. Just kindness time, rest, pleasantries. At one point I understood it's war, but I was grateful that in this war I had all the alcohol I wanted to drink and all the cigarettes I wanted to smoke. And that was true for a whole period of time during the war. Men in foxholes in World Wars I and II or in whatever wars, if they can share a cigarette, they're in heaven. I never ran out of cigarettes. I never ran out of money for alcohol. And then the best as I understand it, I thought I was sick. I was shaking and stuff. And I thought maybe I had Parkinson's or something. I was feeling terrible. And my son said, if you don't go to the acute unit and get detoxed, I'm calling the police if you leave here. I'll call the police on you for drunk driving. So I went. And I was having the DTs. I was sick from alcohol poisoning or whatever. I didn't know it. It was very difficult. And when I got out of the acute unit after 3 days, maybe, my son took me straight to an AA meeting. And I was a regular AA meeting person for about 6 years. And then it just got like, I would go to the gratitude club, but I would stay there. It's like, it got toxic. It was toxic there. It was just in the room. It was just the feeling you get. So I would go to other meetings, and it was better. But I just got tired. I mean, we read so much of their literature. Before every meeting, we read this page, and the 12 steps, and the 12 traditions, and I was like, 3 or 4 nights a week. For 6 years. Like, I can't read this shit anymore. It was too repetitive. I just couldn't stand it anymore, and so I stopped going. And I didn't drink for years. 2 or 3 years. I didn't have a drop. And then when Trump ran for president, I started drinking again. It was like, this guy is a fucktard, and he kept not failing the way everybody predicted. And, it's like, no way this guy can get in. But I felt that way about George W. Bush. He was just too much of a dumb fuck to get in. We used to have standards, even if you're crooked. Like Nixon had an intellect. We used to have standards in the United States. Someone can be presidential material and horrible in their philosophies, but still be educated and not eloquent, but have a good vocabulary or something. I mean, I wasn't voting when Nixon was in. I was too young, but I voted for Carter both times. And my life was pretty okay during the Carter years. I noticed that. As time went on, I noticed my life was trashed. In the months prior to Reagan getting elected, to the whole time he was in office, both times, they renewed trashing my life in 84. They trashed my life in 80 and 84. So I got trashed twice. The only person I read about, I don't look for this information, but I tripped over it because I figured if your life turned really good in 81, 82, 83, or 84, 85, 86, then you probably, I don't know. I don't know what I concluded about that, but I took note of people whose lives improved drastically during the greed is good years, and absolutely no mercy for any, middle class, lower middle class, poor, mentally ill for real, but that's a whole other story. The first time I was hospitalized, I thought, you know what? I bet there is no such thing as schizophrenia. There's people who are rape fucked. That they're actually having a normal reaction to extreme circumstances from childhood. They just don't remember it consciously. And everybody in their world who abused them as children is telling them, you're mentally ill. We're healthy, we're normal. So, I don't know. And I met Paul and I had to go away from work and I only saw him twice, briefly. No speaking to each other except hi. When I worked at Sears and he walked by the counter, he said hi and I said hi, or one or the other said hi and the other responded, and that was it. And then I saw him at the customer service counter at Target. I was in the little food place they have, and I saw him. He was standing there taking care of some business or something. And I was angry with him. I didn't want to talk to him or anything. He was wearing a black leather jacket, and he was fat around the belly. Little hangover of the belt. And I thought, good. I'm glad you're fat. Nobody else will be attracted to you. Taylor, if you're not a Satanist, I don't know what you're doing here, and it's not that I don't want anything to do with you, but I'm not gonna see you again, so bye. Did you tell me that, or did I see that? I'm not sure I saw that. Oh. Anyway, I had 25 years of praying to God, reading the Bible, loving God, trusting God, and being guided by God and the angels. I mean, toward the end, it was God, like exclusively in my heart. And I knew it was, and we communicated in our hearts. But it wasn't anything like meeting him, and we did share a heart song. It was just a flow of happy chitter-chatter. What came from his heart and went through my heart, right? It wasn't just him communicating, though, I don't think. And it was a heart song, which people who love each other very much in the universe probably have. It's probably not unique to us, right? it may be a twin soul thing, because I do believe Paul and I are twin souls, even though we don't look alike or anything. We have the same morals, the same ethical judgments in balancing things. And I wrote on my webpage, I'm very open-minded. If my mind were more open, half my brains would probably start falling out. And it's my understanding that God's more open-minded than I am. And He has more mercy for people who were tortured as children and then cross the line and torture other children. He understands the circumstances and the pressures and all that. But to me, once a person tortures a child, they're just, I don't know. I mean, it's just, there should be breaks. There should be internal breaks to keep you from torturing a child. You know? And if you don't have breaks to keep you from torturing a child, you're not part of the universe that I want to live in. You know? But I learned this elsewhere otherwise, you know? Or I may have thought of it on my own, but I think God is choosing children of God who are self-policing. You know, they don't need a whole lot of supervision to do the right thing when they have an opportunity, and to nurture a child when they have an opportunity. I think God wants a self-policing society so we don't all have to watch each other. So God wants me to upload this and put it on Facebook and Twitter, so I will.